So imagine you've spent your entire life mastering chess,
Mm.
right? You know every opening, every strategy, every single possible move the knight can make.
Right, you're a total master.
Exactly. And then right in the middle of a world championship tournament, someone walks up to the table and they shrink the board.
Oh,
Yeah, they shrink the board. They tell you the knights now move like rooks. And by the way, you only have half the time on your clock.
I mean, that is just total system shock. You'd have grandmasters suddenly making these, amateur rookie mistakes,
Right.
and the amateurs who just happen to be incredibly adaptable
Yep.
would suddenly be taking the lead.
Which is actually a perfect metaphor for what we're looking at today. So, welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are pointing our lens squarely at the wildly dramatic midpoint of the 2026 Formula One and Formula Two seasons.
It's been wild.
It really has. We're specifically looking at the fallout from the Austrian Grand Prix.
Yeah, because it has been a season that has completely redefined the sport and honestly, the fundamental physics of how these drivers are even racing.
Exactly. And to figure out how this all happened, we're pulling data from everywhere for you today. So rather than just, reading a summary, we are cross-referencing the comprehensive Wikipedia breakdowns of the 2026 regulations.
Right, the actual rule book.
Yeah, the rulebook. Plus, we're diving into the FIA's official race reports from Austria, and we're pulling junior standings and analysis from Pit Debrief and Coffee Corner Motorsport.
Because you really can't understand what's happening at the absolute peak of the sport without looking at the talent pipeline flowing right into it.
Definitely not. So our mission for you today is simple, but it's big. We are going to decode how a massive, just fundamental overhaul in the engineering rules has completely flipped the motorsport hierarchy.
Oh, completely.
It triggered this crazy corporate gold rush of new teams and sparked an absolute generational war on the track.
Because 2026 isn't just another season of racing. I mean, it's a
Wow.
fascinating case study in how systemic disruption creates immediate chaos, but also, unprecedented opportunity.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Before we can even begin to understand the shocking race results we've been seeing, like the absolute thriller that just happened in Austria, we have to understand the hardware.
Right.
The rulebook didn't just get a minor update, it was basically thrown out the window. I mean, we have entirely new cars.
To do, yeah. And the philosophy behind them is completely different. So for the past decade, F1 cars have been getting bigger, heavier, and honestly more sluggish in slow corners.
Yeah, like driving buses around Monaco.
Exactly. But the 2026 regulations reverse that trend aggressively. The wheelbase has been reduced from 360 to 340 centimeters.
Okay.
And the width is down from 200 to 190 centimeters, and they mandated a 30-kilogram weight reduction.
Which, I mean, in the engineering world of Formula One, finding 30 kilos to shave off is like trying to find an extra hour in the day.
It really is.
It's monumental, but how does that actually translate to the driver's experience behind the wheel? Like, what do they feel?
Well, it changes the entire rotational inertia of the car.
Okay, rotational inertia.
Yeah, so when a car is shorter and lighter, its center of gravity is much more concentrated. This means when a driver turns the steering wheel, the car darts into the apex of a corner way faster.
Like a go-kart.
Essentially, yes. It's incredibly agile, but it's also much more nervous. And then add to that the changes to the floor. We all remember the painful porpoising issues of the previous generation.
Oh, man, yeah. Where the cars were bouncing violently down the straights, drivers were getting out of the cars looking like they'd just been in a boxing match because their spines were taking such a beating.
Yeah, it was awful. Well, the FIA fixed that mechanically for 2026 by drastically reducing the volume of the ground effect tunnels under the car.
Right.
By shrinking those underbody tunnels, you stop the car from violently vacuuming itself to the track and then suddenly snapping back up when the airflow stalls.
Okay, so a much smoother ride.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
much more stable, aerodynamic platform underneath.
Right.
But the real headline, the thing everyone is talking about, is what they did to the wings. The active aerodynamics.
The active aero is wild because the DRS we've all been used to is out. It's completely replaced by these dynamic, moving flaps on both the front and rear wing.
Right. And what's fascinating here is how the mechanics of those flaps fundamentally alter top speed.
Yeah.
So instead of just opening a slot gap in the rear wing to dump drag on a straight, like the old DRS,
Yeah.
the entire aerodynamic profile of the car shifts in real time. The front and rear wings flatten out simultaneously to reduce drag, which means the car just slices through the air much more efficiently.
Wow.
But the moment the driver hits the brakes, those flaps snap back up into a high downforce configuration.
Just to literally push the tires into the tarmac so they can actually corner.
Exactly.
It Sound like a fighter jet shifting its wing sweep mid-flight. But we haven't even touched the engines yet. I know the electrical output went up significantly this year, but how much is a jump are we actually talking about here?
Oh, it's a massive rebalancing of power.
Yeah.
They kept the 1.6-liter V6 internal combustion engine, right?
Okay, yeah.
But the MGU-H, the incredibly complex motor generator unit that harvested heat from the exhaust that has been completely removed.
Because it was too expensive, right?
Too expensive, and it had zero relevance for everyday road cars, which the manufacturers just hated.
So they ditched the exhaust harvesting. What took its place to keep the speeds up? Because they still have to go fast.
Well, they shifted the burden entirely to the MGUK. That's the kinetic energy recovery system that harvests energy from braking.
Right.
The output of that kinetic system was absolutely tripled. It jumped from 160 brake horsepower to a staggering 470 brake horsepower.
Wait, 470 just from the kinetic system?
Just from that. Meanwhile, the actual combustion engine dropped down to 540 horsepower.
That is crazy.
Yeah, so you have a nearly 50-50 split between internal combustion power and electrical power. Plus, they are running on fully sustainable fuel now.
It's almost like they are playing Mario Kart in real life, you know? Where you have this massive strategic turbo button you have to manage. But instead of just pushing a button for a speed boost, it's a closed loop system, isn't it?
It is, exactly. If you want that massive electrical boost out of a corner, you have to earn it by harvesting energy under braking.
Wow.
It is a constant, delicate balancing act. Because the electrical output is so dominant now, I mean, that 470 horsepower is almost half the car's total grunt drivers are constantly managing when to deploy energy and when to harvest it back into the battery.
And that creates speed differentials on the track that are, frankly, terrifying.
Terrifying of the word.
Which brings us to Suzuka.
Yep.
Because getting the timing wrong on that energy cycle has incredibly dangerous consequences. We saw an actual really heavy crash at the Japanese Grand Prix specifically because of this, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
Oliver Bierman suffered a massive crash simply because he was on the same stretch of track with Franco Colapinto. But they were on totally different energy strategies.
Right.
So Bierman was deploying his electrical energy, pushing full speed, using absolutely everything he had.
Going for it.
Yeah. Colapinto, who was just a few meters ahead, had opted to harvest his energy. And to do that quickly, he was engaging in a process known as super clipping.
Super clipping.
Right. Which is essentially using the electrical motor to apply resistance to the drivetrain to charge the battery against the engine.
So you essentially had one car acting like a rocket and another acting like a roadblock right on the apex of a corner.
Precisely. Bierman closed the distance so incredibly fast that the speed differential was entirely unnatural. His reflexes just couldn't compensate for a car that was functionally braking on a straightaway, and it caused a severe collision.
And the drivers were furious.
Oh, absolutely furious. It forced the FIA to hold emergency meetings in April, right ahead of the Miami Grand Prix.
But how do you even fix that? I mean, you can't just undesign a hybrid engine mid-season.
No, you can't. But you can change the software parameters dictating how the energy is deployed and harvested.
Oh, like a patch.
Basically a software patch, effectively. They capped the super clipping duration to just 2 to 4 seconds per lap. And they also reduced the qualifying harvesting limit.
Okay, so the goal was to smooth out those speed differences so drivers wouldn't have to radically lift and coast on the straights, risking rear-end collisions just to recharge their batteries.
Exactly.
It's just unbelievable that the tech is so advanced that it literally forced a mid-season software patch just to stop the drivers from crashing into each other.
It is wild.
But here is the crazy part. You'd think this level of chaos, disruption, and literal hardware danger would scare away the big, conservative automotive brands.
You would think so.
But instead, it acted like a giant reset button that attracted a massive corporate gold rush.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the reason for this influx of manufacturers is that a major rule change levels the playing field.
Ah, okay.
If you are a global brand like Audi or Ford, you do not want to enter Formula One during an era where Mercedes or Red Bull has a 10-year head start on refining the exact same engine specifications.
Yeah, you'll just get embarrassed on a global stage.
Exactly. 2026 gave everyone a starting line at zero.
And looking at the grid, the money flowing in is just staggering. I mean, Audi didn't just sponsor a team, they officially took over Sauber to become a full works team, building their own chassis and their own power unit.
Right.
Ford has returned to F1 for the first time since 2004, partnering up with Red Bull powertrains to fund their electrical development. Honda, after years of sort of, leaving and lingering, is back fully independently to supply Aston Martin.
Yep. And you also have Alpine completely restructuring. They actually dropped their historic in-house Renault engines to become Mercedes' customer because they saw the writing on the wall regarding the new hybrid demands.
That's a huge shift. But I think the biggest news of the corporate gold rush has to be Cadillac.
Oh, for sure.
They entered as the 11th team on the grid. They're using Ferrari engines for now until General Motors can finish building their own power unit for 2029.
Which is a massive undertaking.
And to support all this corporate expansion, the FIA raised the operational cost cap from $135 million to $215 million, with a separate $130 million cap dedicated entirely to engine development.
That engine cost cap is crucial. It gives these mega corporations actual financial predictability.
Right.
A board of directors at General Motors or Ford is much more willing to sign a check if they know their competitors are legally capped as spending the exact same amount.
Yeah.
It shifts the battle from who has the deepest pockets to who has the smartest engineers.
I hear that, but I have to push back a little here. Are these new giants biting off way more than they can chew?
Right.
Because joining F1 with a massive budget is one thing. Actually building a car that functions on track is another. Just look at Cadillac at the Austrian Grand Prix. It was an unmitigated disaster.
It was a rough weekend for them, yeah.
Both of their drivers, Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, who are two incredibly experienced veterans, they had to retire in the opening laps. And the reason given was overheating brakes. How does a multi-billion-dollar company fail at cooling brakes?
Well, it's a highly complex engineering failure, and it actually highlights the hidden cost of this specific season's geopolitical context.
What do you mean?
Well, the brakes overheated because in these 2026 cars, the brake-by-wire system is intricately linked to the MGUK energy harvesting.
Okay.
If the software miscalculates how much regenerative braking the motor is doing, it sends too much pressure to the physical brake discs, literally cooking them. But Cadillac couldn't fix this software bug in time because they lacked real-world data.
Oh, because of the canceled races earlier in the year?
Correct. Early in the season, both the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix were completely canceled. The calendar was heavily condensed early on due to cancellations stemming from the outbreak of the conflict in Iran.
Wow, which meant those vital early season testing grounds were just wiped off the schedule. We are simply reporting on what happened with the schedule here, but those geopolitical events really changed the engineering timeline.
They did. And those early Middle Eastern races are traditionally where teams gather vital telemetry to fix their cars' initial flaws in warm weather.
Right, they need that heat data.
Exactly. So with fewer races to test this radically new, highly complex brake-by-wire and active aero technology, the growing pains for a brand new team like Cadillac were severely amplified. They were essentially forced to test their thermal management systems during a live, highly competitive European leg of the season.
It's trial by fire, literally, for their brake calipers.
Quite literally.
So we have new cars shrinking in size, active aero changing the downforce dynamically, new teams like Audi and Cadillac throwing hundreds of millions at the grid. And naturally, this is all manifested on the track as this brutal, thrilling battle between the generations.
It is absolutely the defining narrative of the 2026 season on the tarmac. It's the untested rookies against the established legends.
Yeah, and Mercedes clearly nailed the 2026 regulations right out of the gate. And their rookie driver, 19-year-old Kimi Antonelli, is dominating in a way we haven't seen in a very long time. I mean, he's breaking all the youngest ever records, isn't he?
The statistics are frankly staggering. Antonelli is now the youngest pole sitter in the sport's history. He's the youngest race winner. He's the youngest championship leader, currently sitting at 171 points, up by 40 points on his own teammate.
Incredible.
He even became the youngest driver to ever win at Monaco.
And Monaco is such a unique beast this year. Because of the tight, twisty, incredibly dangerous nature of the street circuit, the FIA actually disabled the active aero rules just for that specific race, didn't they?
They did, yeah. They locked the wings in a high downforce configuration. The governing body felt that drivers dynamically trimming drag while they're just inches from the retaining walls in Monaco was a recipe for disaster.
That makes total sense.
But even without the active aero, Antonelli still won from pole, achieving a Grand Chelem securing pole position, winning the race, setting the fastest lap, and leading every single lap.
Unbelievable. But, you know, the veterans are not going quietly. George Russell, Antonelli's teammate at Mercedes, is in second place in the championship with 131 points.
Right.
And Lewis Hamilton, who is now wearing Ferrari red, he won the Spanish Grand Prix, which, by the way, moved to that brand new, incredibly fast street circuit in Madrid this year.
Yeah, Madrid is a wild track.
And Hamilton winning that race made him the oldest race winner since Jack Brabham back in 1970.
I mean, the contrast is cinematic. You have the youngest winner and the oldest winner in decades fighting tooth and nail in the exact same season, dealing with the exact same engineering chaos.
So here's where it gets really interesting, and I want your analytical take on this. Is Kimi Antonelli a once-in-a-generation, undeniable prodigy, or is the Mercedes W17 car just an absolute rocket ship doing all the heavy lifting for a teenager? Because Russell is doing great in it, too.
Right. It's the classic F1 debate. And this raises an important question about the relationship between man and machine in this new era. There is no denying that Mercedes built the best chassis and hybrid system.
Right.
George Russell's success and his sprint wins absolutely prove the W17 is a masterpiece of engineering. However, you cannot discount Antonelli's racing IQ, and it really comes down to cognitive load.
Okay, explain that. What makes a 19-year-old better suited to this specific car than a veteran with a decade of experience?
Think back to the energy management we discussed, that closed loop cycle.
Yeah.
The older drivers on the grid have spent 10 or 15 years building deep, ingrained muscle memory for how a Formula One car behaves. They're used to the heavy reliance on the MGUH for smooth power delivery.
Right, the exhaust harvesting that's gone now.
Exactly. And they're used to traditional DRS. Suddenly, they have to unlearn all of that muscle memory.
That's tough.
Now, approaching a corner, they have to manage manual overtake modes, extreme battery harvesting limits, and active aero flaps that constantly change the car's downforce mid-braking zone.
So their brains are constantly fighting their own instincts.
Exactly. Antonelli came in completely fresh. He didn't have bad habits to unlearn. His ability to adapt to this highly complex, software-driven racing faster than multi-year veterans shows an extraordinary cognitive flexibility. While the veterans are mentally translating the new rules as they drive, Antonelli is just speaking the new language fluently.
He's just natively hardwired for the 2026 regulations, but as we saw at the Austrian Grand Prix, experience still counts for a lot when things get chaotic.
Oh, absolutely.
You see how all these threads, the hybrid technology, the corporate pressures, the generational clash tangle together. Austria was just the perfect microcosm.
It really was a spectacular race that tested every aspect of these new machines.
George Russell ended up taking the win, finally breaking Antonelli's streak, but the drive of the day had to be Max Verstappen.
Oh, without a doubt.
Max completely ruined his qualifying with a crash, started way down the grid, but charged aggressively through the field. He had these fierce side-by-side battles with Lewis Hamilton, old rivals going at it again under completely new rules, and managed to fight his way up to take second place. Antonelli finished third.
Yeah, Verstappen's ferocious drive is a testament to the old guard's resilience. It shows the reigning titans won't just roll over for the new tech or the new kids. Yeah. What was so impressive about Verstappen in Austria was his mastery of the mechanical grip. He managed the hard tires perfectly over a long stint. But more importantly, he utilized his super clipping strategy flawlessly to hunt down Hamilton.
Really? How so?
He was harvesting deep into the braking zones, taking massive risks with the balance of the car, and then deploying that 470 horsepower out of the slow corners to pass. He almost caught Russell at the very end, finishing just 1.6 seconds behind.
That's incredible. But right behind those titans, the Youth Rebellion was still scoring serious points.
They were.
Rookie Isaac Hadjar, who stepped up to the main Red Bull team to replace Yuki Tsunoda, took a highly respectable 6th place.
Very solid drive.
And Arvid Lindblad, another rookie driving for the Racing Bulls, scored a point in 10th. Which brings me to something that I find absolutely fascinating about the paddock right now. F1 teams are currently so willing to pull drivers straight out of the lower formulas, seemingly skipping the usual years of grooming.
The pipeline has never been more direct, and the stakes in the junior categories have never been higher.
The pressure in the Formula 2 championship right now must be at an all-time unprecedented peak. Every single F1 team principal is standing at the pit wall, watching those junior races, actively hunting for the next Antonelli or Lindblad.
Yeah, and when you zoom out and look at why F1 teams are aggressively scouting teenagers right now, You have to look at the F2 standings. It's a fiercely contested season.
It really is.
Campos Racing is currently leading the team standings with 168 points, followed closely by MP Motorsport and Rodin.
And on the driver's side, it's neck and neck. You've got drivers like Gabriele Mini fighting tooth and nail. Our sources show Mini is holding a mere 3-point lead over Nicolas Soloff after a wildly chaotic sprint race in Barcelona.
That was a crazy race.
Every single corner for those kids right now is a job interview for a Formula One seat. But why Campos Racing? Why are they the team setting the benchmark in F2 right now?
Well, Campos has managed to master the mechanical setup of the new generation of F2 chassis better than anyone else. They are giving drivers like Mini a highly stable platform, which allows him to show off his raw processing speed. And that is exactly what F1 teams are looking for. Because the 2026 F1 cars are so radically different. Lighter, smaller, lacking the MGUH, relying entirely on dynamic active aero. Previous Formula One experience just doesn't offer the massive advantage it used to.
It's the chessboard shrinking again. The veterans are stumbling over the new rules.
Exactly. The slate is completely wiped clean. An F2 driver like Gabriele Mini, who is young, hungry, and highly adaptable, is arguably just as valuable to an F1 team right now as a 10-year veteran who might struggle to adapt their braking style to the new regenerative harvesting limits.
Right.
Teams are looking for raw processing power in the cockpit, someone who can handle the immense cognitive load of these new systems without overloading.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this deep dive? Why should you care about the minutia of MGUK harvesting, brake-by-wire failures, and F2 driver standings?
A good question.
Because the 2026 Formula One season is the ultimate high-speed, real-world proof of a universal truth. When the rules of the game are fundamentally rewritten, legacy dominance means absolutely nothing.
It is a perfect, visceral metaphor for any industry undergoing systemic disruption.
Yeah, whether you are a multi-billion-dollar automotive brand like Mercedes or Cadillac throwing millions at wind tunnels, or you are a 19-year-old rookie like Kimi Antonelli just trying to keep the car on the track, the only currency that matters when the world changes is agility.
Agility is everything.
The ability to unlearn the old way and master the new way faster than the person next to you.
And that actually brings up a final thought I'd like to leave you with today. We've talked so much about the drivers managing these incredibly complex engineering systems, the shifting active aero, the electrical super clipping, the specific deployment modes.
Yeah.
It's at the point where, as we saw with Behrman and Colapinto at Suzuka, drivers are crashing simply because of automated speed differentials caused by battery harvesting algorithms.
The cars are almost fighting the drivers.
Exactly. So, as these cars become increasingly reliant on millions of lines of code to manage downforce and power delivery, are we approaching a near future where the algorithms and the car's automated energy strategies are actually doing more of the racing than the human pilots inside them?
Wow. Are we watching the driver's race or are we watching the software race? That is a wild thought to chew on, like playing that game of chess. But the pieces are starting to decide their own moves based on what the board looks like.
It's the ultimate question for the future of motorsport and, frankly, the future of automotive technology as a whole.
Well, on that note, we are going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the engineering chaos and the generational thrill of the 2026 racing season.
It's been a pleasure exploring the mechanics of this with you. Keep questioning the rules of the game.
Until next time, stay curious.